Over these last days, the question's been asked, where are we? And what is it that's present when we no longer need to try to be in the now, to try to be this or that? There are several old stories that answer this question for us in their way. But first of all, there's a simple Zen story that boggles our mind to put it in that place where we have no need to try to use our faculties to understand what the anecdotes impart. And it's a story about a sword master who came to the great Zen master Ronin, and after the usual salutations and sitting down to share a simple tea ceremony, the swordsman said to Master Ronin, "Master, I have studied the way of the sword for many decades now, and I am inspired to start a school of my own. But even though I have labored and pondered and meditated on this, I have been unable to verbalize, to express, to articulate the essence of this school. Can you help me to find it?" Suddenly, Master Ronin got up from his cushion, came over to the swordsman and punched him hard 3 times and kicked him so he fell off his cushion. And in that moment, the swordmaster knew what the essence of his school was. Then there's the story of the young Japanese man called Yukio, and he was born to a father who himself was a master swordsman, a great and well-known samurai who had started his own school and taught many illustrious samurai. But as was the tradition, the mantle of the school was to be handed down to the son or a son of the swordmaster. But the swordmaster only had one son, Yukio, and the swordmaster considered Yukio unsuitable to become a swordmaster, much less the master who would take over his school. But Yukio was determined, and so he left his family home and set out on the quest to find a master swordsman who could teach him the way of the sword. His journey took him to many places until finally he came to that place where it was said that the greatest swordmaster in the land resided. But when he arrived there, he found and was told that the master had now retired to the mountains, and he lived in isolation in a hut in a high mountain behind this place where Yukio found himself. But Yukio was determined to prove himself to his father. And so he made the arduous journey up the mountain until he came to the place where the retired master swordsman now lived. Now when Yukio arrived, of course, with the usual salutations, Yukio begged the old master to take him as a student and asked him, please please, I will do anything that you ask me to do. How long will it take me to become a master swordsman? And the master said, oh, it will take you at least 30 years in that case. But Ukiyo said, I don't have that time. I will give my dedication. I will do anything that you tell me to do. How long will it take me? Oh, said the master, well, it will take you 10 years or more. And Ukiyo said, but you know, I have to become a master swordsman before my father dies. Please. But after begging and pleading with the master agreed to take him on as his student, but with the promise that he would do exactly what he was told to do without question, ask no questions, and above all, not to even attempt to touch the hilt of a sword. So Ukiyo, undertaking, making a pledge to do exactly what the old master said, he took up residence there, and he was asked to sweep around the hut of the master, to gather wood for the fire, to stir the rice and wash his clothes. And Ukiyo did this day after day after day, following his pledge not to ask any questions or to question what was asked of him to do. And then it happened one day when he was stirring over the rice. Suddenly the master came behind him with a stick and whacked him hard on the shoulders. And after that, there was no rest for Ukiyo. He never knew when the blow would land on him, day and night, day after day, not knowing when the next blow would fall. But then after some while, one day, as Ukiyo was bending over, stirring the rice, he suddenly lifted the lid of the rice cooker up to fend off a blow that had not even arrived. The master congratulated Ukiyo and said, now you have no longer need to even touch a sword. You are now a master swordsman. Then the third story is that story about the young man from a village in the country who was given a job in the emperor's palace. But when he came to the palace, he recognized that all of those who were there were adept with the sword. All of the servants, the courtiers, all around the emperor were those who had ability with the sword. And this young man had not. So he undertook himself to seek out a sword master to learn the art of the sword. Now he went to a master who prided himself on being able to recognize the quality of a man, read them, knew their abilities. So when the young man came into the presence of the master sized him up, and the master immediately said to him, I can see that you are already adept at swordsmanship. Tell me, what school of swordsmanship did you attend? The young man said, "Oh, master, I've never attended any school. I've never handled a sword." Now the old master feigned anger. "How dare you try to fool an old man? I know that you're adept at the sword." But then the old master looked at the young man and realized that he was telling the truth. So somewhat chastened, the master said to him, well, what is it then?" Now the young man was quite puzzled, but then he said to the old master, "Well, master, from my earliest youth, in one way or another, I have witnessed death. We had war in our place, and I saw death. I experienced death in many forms, and so I studied death. And now I find that death holds no fear for me. I have no fear of death." So the old master looked at the young man and said, "I can teach you nothing. You are already a master swordsman." Where are we, and what is it that's present when we no longer have the need to try? These stories tell us. Can you translate them from your own experience as to what they mean? Where have the experiences, the disciplines of life brought us? Have we not died many times in different ways, the milestones of our life, the moments what we were died, and maybe a phoenix arised out of the ashes. But what about now? Where are we when we no longer need or even can try? What is this place? And what is present in this place?